Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, episode 31, The Mimic's Veil Reborn. This video is releasing to the public on June 13th, because it's episode 31. The original Mimic's Veil episode was filmed in January, I think January 2nd. This video is filmed on June 2nd, 6 months apart. In the first Mimic's Veil episode, it was my first attempt at telling, or at least talking about my survivorship on video. I thought it was the right time to do it because we got to the Mimic's Veil, and I wanted to reveal, what my channel was about and who I was about. And since then, I don't know if a lot has changed for me, but 6 months is a long time. When I made that video, I was 12 months, it had been a year since I recovered my memories of abuse. And that, I don't know, I guess like in those 12 months, a lot for me changed. And in these past 6 months, I don't know how much has changed for me. So I kind of wanted to just do a meta retrospective type of episode and maybe just talk about the last 6 months and also talk about, I guess Mimic Commentary, maybe my channel, maybe me. When I first made the Mimic Commentary, oh, by the way, so next episode 32, is going to be back to that original recording. So I recorded episode 31, and I cry on camera, or I cry on video in that video, and then immediately I went into episode 32, and I wanted there to be like a juxtaposition between putting on the mask and taking the mask off, being able to go from trauma to fantasy in the blink of an eye, and when we get into episode 32, it's going to be January 2025 again, and we're just jump right back into it. Then, just as a warning, episode 33, I talk a little bit more about trauma stuff, but it's not like a crying episode. I just wanted to prepare you for that, and then I don't really talk about it too explicitly afterwards. Before we continue with the meta talking stuff, let's talk to Oscar because he actually has something relevant for us for Elden Ring.
Oh, you're no hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission. But perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family. Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask. An undead favorite. Oh, and this. Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
The undead treasure these dull green flasks, fill with Estus at bonfire, fills HP. The Estus flasks are linked to the Firekeepers. The Dark Tales also make reference. An emerald flask from the Keeper's soul. She lives to protect the flame, and dies to protect it further. What's interesting about this parallel to Elden Ring is we start in a prison cell. To me, that's very symbolic of kind of, you know, being trapped in maybe this cycle, being trapped in maybe this darkness, this hopelessness. It can feel like a lonely, isolated prison that you can't seem to break out of. Fortunately, your knight in shining armor comes along, and he hands you a key. He doesn't tell you much of what to do. He just shares with you a hope and a dream passed down to him through his family. It's pretty prophetic. It leads to the chosen undead prophecy. And as we've been seeing so far with Elden Ring, I don't know so much how we've been seeing it in the first 30 episodes, but definitely further on we start noticing it. How much prophecy plays a role in making the plot move forward and making sure things happen the way they do. You know, at the beginning of the Mimic Commentary, we chose the Prophet class, and so we can, you know, be able to say we know how the story is going to end. We might have prophetic visions that give us lore insights that we shouldn't have yet. But it's also to reinforce how your character, the vessel that you inhabit in these games, is always destined to be the hero. You know, it's always about you and what you do in this world. If you're familiar with Dark Souls, its lore and its characters, I would like for you to consider, why is it that your character is the one who's chosen? Why is it that they get the Estus flask from that knight from Astora? And why do they start in that prison cell? And what else do we get from that prison cell? Maybe we'll do something further down the line where we could talk about the comparisons. But right now, I just want you to think about that. Big Pilgrim's Key. Key to the inner door of the Undead Asylum main hall. Big key belonging to a chosen undead pilgrim. But this chosen undead knows not what this pilgrimage has in store. Obviously a reference to this character. So, I made the Mimic Commentary after I did how Elden Ring hides its story, because I wanted to start exemplifying how when you play through the game and you look at the bits and pieces of its world and story narratively as you learn that information, how it changes your perception on what is actually going on and what the story looks like and what the lore looks like. Because I was noticing, at least from my perspective, that, you know, many people were doing like wiki lore. Like, I beat the game, then I'm going to look up what's happening, and then I'm just gonna, you know, maybe someone on a video is gonna tell me, or I'm just gonna read all the items, you know, instead of thinking about what's happening as it's happening, when it happens. I don't know how other theorists do it online, but when I play through the game, at least when I play through these games, I try to inhabit the character as I'm going through the story and pick it apart as I go along. Then I like to play the game again and do the same thing, knowing what I know in the future. That's kind of where I had my big revelations with Elden Ring. I originally played it in 2022 when it came out, but it was in the middle of my master's degree, and I didn't have that much time to focus, so I just did 2 weeks of just Elden Ring, and I think I spent 90 to 110 hours until I beat the game, trying to do everything I could. And the biggest revelation for me was the Elden Beast, that inside of the magical tree was a god from space, And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that explains so much of what George R. R. Martin wrote for this game, and that's going to tell us a lot for A Song of Ice and Fire. Then I dropped Elden Ring, and then I picked it back up again a year later, and I was just unsatisfied with the lore that I was hearing in like these videos. I was listening to Smotown's videos. Like, he had so much content where he was just going through everything. Hey, we can hear some spirit calling bells. And they're all very good, but I didn't like the explanation for like Renala and Radagon, because that's not what I saw in the story, and I've talked about this like so many times, and that's what led me to recovering, you know, those memories. And then since then, I don't know why, how I took it upon myself that after covering up with those, after getting those memories and it being tied to these games and my history with playing them and how they coincided with, because of these games, I read the manga Berserk and how that spoke to me. I felt like I had to tell everybody as well, because maybe, you know, if I had known sooner, maybe I could have done something differently. Can't change the past as a kid, but, you know, maybe you can change the future for somebody else. My videos don't reach children, obviously. My age demographic is like 25 to 35, I think. Mostly male. I think 93% of the audience is male, 7% is female. And then I think maybe it's like 0.9% is either gender non-conforming or not chosen, or whatever the statistic is, like not defined in the console. But I kept making, I started making videos about Elden Ring and what it meant to me, but it became like obsessive. I had to not just produce what I thought was happening. I had to make sure what I was saying was correct for the story, because also what I saw in the story was like a survivor story. The themes and the imagery, that was all there to me. In the first Mimics Fail episode, I mentioned how like the idea that bloody fingers have to kill a finger maiden, and the idea of bloody fingers and finger maidens, like, you know, you just put it backwards. Finger maidens, bloody fingers. Like, that's a gross sentiment, and that's kind of tells you all you need to know about the Lord of Blood and his ilk, and how that relates to our other characters in the story. It felt like not only did I have a duty to produce analysis that would be accurate to the original story being told by Miyazaki and Martin, but also honest with myself and how I was feeling. And I couldn't do that without talking about where it all comes from and how it's tied to who I am as a person. So I just felt so compelled to share my story. And the Mimics Veil episode, that was the first attempt to do it. The second attempt was filmed, I think, end of January, or... Oh, no, the second attempt was filmed, like... All right, let me put this back. The Mimics Veil was, I think... I don't know actually the timeline. I have to double check. I did film another video. I don't remember the order. It's chapter 3 of the Neverending Story series, but that video is part of the ARG if you want to find it. That was me doing it on camera, dressed up as the character Jacobus Mimicus, but at my desk, so it's very obviously not a... it's very obviously, like, not supposed to be a lore video, even though I go over the lore of the oh, I got hit in the head. I go over the lore of the Golden Order. But what was special about doing that video, you most likely haven't seen it unless you search for the ARG, is that I had scripted in the script me doing the lore, knowing that there was going to be a trigger word where I would share. and that was a difficult experience for me as well. But now, it all feels rather easy to talk about it. And in this, I guess that's kind of that magic of time and healing and remembering that after 6 months, I feel comfortable. And 6 months ago in January, I felt very uncomfortable. I felt very disconnected. I felt lost. I felt not hopeless, but like I felt like I was in the dark, and I was working my way to like get out of that like dark tunnel. Now though, out on the other side, I shared in, I guess, end of February was the How Elden Ring Saved My Life. And that video I thought was going to be so huge. I thought that was going to be like a massive success. I thought it was going to like, not like it was going to put me on the map for like, wow, this was like a really big thing for someone to do, to come out. They're making lore videos and about a game that's filled with secrets. And this entire time they had been leaving their own secrets in their video, hoping someone would find it and be able to connect with them. I thought that would have been a story that people would have wanted to share and maybe felt inspired by and to get that message across. And ultimately, that's not what happened. And I think it's better that way, that it didn't happen. We live in a different type of media landscape, and YouTube specifically, very different than what I was used to growing up and watching YouTube and consuming that type of content. I thought it would have got a lot of views, and it didn't, and I'm happy it didn't. It's better for me that it didn't, because it means that the people who saw it, the people who watched it, they were the ones who needed to see it. Not all of my subscribers have seen that video. Currently at 15,000 subscribers, that video maybe has 6,000 views, which is astonishing to me, because I just thought it would be different. And in my first Mimics Vale episode, we just got a little humanity. In my first Mimics Vale episode, I said how I wanted to do this to save somebody's life. Not just my own, but somebody else's. And since then, I have had people tell me how what I have shared has truly and positively impacted them, either as survivors themselves, as people who didn't know they were survivors, as people suffering from other types of trauma or addiction or what have you. So it's done the work that it needed to do. And then, afterwards, I did what I was calling the Mimic Reborn seasons, different types of videos, no scripts, just off the cuff, sharing what I felt about Elden Ring, just feeling more free and not worrying about what the outcome was going to be. I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that what I'm doing is viewed as valuable and is successful in the eyes of metrics and just everyone else except myself. And I tried to let go of those feelings and just do videos that I would be happy that I just did them. Not because I needed them to, be done in a specific way, but just because I wanted to share what I thought, and I knew someone was going to listen to them and enjoy that. So I still fall into the pitfall of engaging with people who are not interested in the discussion and are only interested in telling me I'm wrong. And I also fall into the pitfall of people who are interested in discussing but disagree with me and then taking personal offense to that. All things I'm trying to work on, which is just part of growing. It's also in a unique perspective as someone who willingly chooses to put themselves out onto the internet for the whole world to see, and then being shocked when getting what would you call it? Like getting a not so nice response, which, we're getting through that. I also have noticed how YouTube, as a platform, I think, is a very bad platform. not because it's not giving me the views that I want, but because of how YouTube tries to get its people who create videos for it addicted to the cycle of creating videos in order for them to create more videos by giving them that dopamine rush for successful videos. And I'm trying to break out of that cycle as well. That doesn't mean not posting anything. It just means not putting so much weight into the success of what it is. And I missed all those firebombs. Putting like the success and what have you. And then before this video, the last video I produced for before Night Rain was my time traveling Mikola video. And that was also another attempt at sharing my trauma. Hey, come up here. Let's fight up here. He's bugged. You can see he kind of has like a little stone wings. Oh, is he going to jump off the edge? No. So that's just where we're at. In doing the Mimic commentary, I've also noticed... Oh boy. Am I going to die to the Taurus Demon? In doing the Mimic commentary, I've noticed just how much fun I have exploring these worlds and just on the fly sharing what I think and coming to new conclusions just by doing that. Currently, as of recording, we're in episode 80 of the Mimic commentary, and we're in Raya Lucaria. We've done 2 episodes of Raya Lucaria. One was Raya Lucaria proper, and then the Volcano Manor. If you'd like to see those episodes now, you can become a member. Tier 1 members get, you get a color in the Discord. You get early access to all of my non-Mimic commentary videos. And then Tier 2 gets you early access to Mimic commentary videos when they're actually produced. So if that's something you're interested in. But it's not necessary. We're going back to the regular upload schedule of 3 videos a week. So far, we have up to October 2025 with videos produced and ready. But I get excited for what I'm going to talk about in like the next episode, just knowing what's coming along, because I don't know what I'm going to say when I get there. New lore comes around. Some days or some weeks I get like bursts of energy where I do so many videos in a row and early access gets like 7 in a week. Sometimes it's like, the Age of Plenty and it comes to a close quickly and you're only getting like 1 episode a week. But usually during those times it's because I'm busy or it's because I'm trying to learn something new to enhance the Mimic commentary and my knowledge and just, maybe who I am as a person. So, for example, even though we're in Raya Lucaria right now, I picked up a book called Our Moon. And I wanted to learn more about the history, the science, and the culture impacting the moon, because we're getting to talking about Rennala. And I already know so much about her based on her similarities to Catelyn Stark in Song of Ice and Fire, but I'm not so familiar with all of the moon symbolism, culture, religion, and so forth. So I want to be able to share more than just myself when I do the Mimic commentary episodes, because ultimately the goal is to finish the Mimic commentary, do all of Elden Ring, and be able to give a full analysis on what the story is trying to say, what it's trying to tell us, and what's actually happening in one of the most cohesive ways possible, and have however many videos it takes showing that work, that this is what it took to get to this point, this is what it looks like, the ups and the downs. So, this is actually part of it. Episode 31 of the Mimic Commentary Reborn, filmed after episode 80, being released between episode 30 and 32, is kind of exposing that process. Also in this time, Elden Ring Night Rain came out, and as of recording, I've only beat 2 Night Lord bosses, but since this is a journal for posterity to see where my thoughts are in a specific point of time, this is what I think Elden Ring Night Rain is about. All right, I've only beat 2 Night Rain bosses. I've only done a few of the journal entries and remembrances. But as of right now, Elden Ring Night Rain, to me, with limited information, is If the lands between is how Radigan learned about the world, if Shadow of the Erd Tree is how Mikola learned about the world, then Elden Ring Night Rain is what Marika is doing in the back end to protect the world. That, and this is just speculation based on where I'm at in the game right now, after the Elden Ring is shattered, it opens up the night to destroy all of history and memory and all of the lands between. The night, to me, is very similar to the nothing from the Neverending Story, which is something I've referenced in multiple videos, and something I think is directly referenced in Mikola's ending cutscene and House of the Dragon Season 2's finale. So Marika summons these Nightfarers to protect the rest of the world from the coming night. She needed to shatter the Elden Ring for her plans to be fulfilled, specifically to, as we've watched the How to Mimic a God video, to put the Elden Beast in a time loop, and to allow Mikola to become a time-traveling god. It opens up for this night nothingness to destroy everything, destroy all history, destroy the story. However, these Nightfarers are here, and they are stuck in a time loop, fighting off the night forever and ever. And they keep remembering their past journeys just to do it again and again. This ties in a lot to Larval Tears, who are a synthetic version of Rebirth, a synthetic the cores of a Silver Tear, the Larval Tears, are copies of the true Larval Tears, which are souls. We'll get to it when we get to it. And I'm seeing that happening in Night Rain, especially since when you become reborn, you lose your memories. And it just feels very, I was worried about Night Rain because, you don't know what it's going to do to the lore and story, especially the one that you have in your own head, and one that I've worked very hard on to make sure that my theorizing is accurate to myself and to what I think the story is going on. And so far, everything that they've presented in Night Rain, I feel, reinforces the theorizing that I've put forward already. That of memory, that of rebirth, and that of time loops. So hopefully, after I beat Night Rain, maybe my theorizing is correct. Otherwise, who knows? But I'm looking forward to integrating that into future content, future videos, and sharing what I think about Night Rain when I actually finish it. Yeah, so that's that. I'm very happy that all of you have been watching the Mimic commentary as public. I think so far I get like 1,500 viewers per episode, which is insanity. That is so cool. And currently I think I have, how many? I think I have 170 members, who paying members of my channel, and many of whom who watch the Mimic commentary, which is crazy. So thank you all for watching. We're back on schedule. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but this video is going up on my 30th birthday. So now I'm officially an old man. Time for reflection and new beginnings and a new stage of my life and maybe a new stage of the Mimic commentary. Who knows? I don't. Whatever. This was fun. I'm pressing all the buttons. I don't know how to do. I've never played Dark Souls Remastered on the PlayStation before. I want to wave goodbye. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching. You know the drill. Let's do the thing.